The fastest man in the room is the one with the least power. You have felt that, and you have never once said it out loud because it sounds wrong. Everything you were ever taught points the other way. Speak up, be decisive, move first, never let a challenge sit. And somewhere in your 20s you quietly decided that being quick was the same thing as being sharp, and you have been paying for that decision every single day since. So here is the question that decides how much room you get in every room you walk into. When somebody pushes on you, do they get an answer, or do they get to wait? Be honest about it. Because if pushing on you produces an immediate response every time, then you are not being responsive. You are being read. And what they are reading is not your intelligence. It is your need. Think about the last time it happened. You are in a meeting, and somebody takes a small shave off the top of your work. Not an attack, a correction, in front of people whose opinion matters to you. And you answer, fast, clean, reasonable. You supply the context they were missing. You are not even angry. You are being helpful, and you watch the room absorb it, and you feel something go wrong that you cannot name. Here is what went wrong. What they heard was not your explanation. What they heard was how quickly you needed to give it. You bought your own guilt with speed, and you paid the entire price in under 4 seconds. Now I want to be precise about what this video actually is, because it is not what you think. This is the first law of the quiet version, and it is not a video about patience. Patience is a mood. This is about tempo, which is a position. It is about who owns the clock in every exchange you are part of. And the honest answer right now is that you do not, and you have not for a very long time. Somebody else sets your speed, without ever consciously thinking about it, and you have organized your entire working life around keeping a pace nobody ever asked you to keep. And I will warn you now, because I would rather you leave early than leave in the middle. Taking the clock back costs you something real in the first few weeks, and what it costs is the one thing about yourself you have always been able to point at. Most men are so frightened of that cost that they never pay it. Hold on to that, because we are coming back to it at the end, and it is going to land somewhere you are not expecting. There is also a demonstration I am going to show you before this is over. 2,100 years ago, a Roman general stood in front of an army that would not obey him, and instead of arguing, he had 2 horses brought into the assembly. What he did with those 2 horses is the mechanism underneath everything I am about to teach you. And there is a version of it running in your life right now, and you are standing on the wrong side of it. Machiavelli wrote something in the 15th chapter of The Prince that almost everybody skips on the way to the famous parts. He said he was going to set aside what men imagine about the world and deal only with what actually happens in it. He called it the effectual truth of the thing. That is the standard for this video. Not what should work. What does? Before we go any further, put 4 words in the comments. I own my clock. Type it exactly, because by the end of this you are going to understand that your speed was never a personality trait. It was a price. You set it yourself, and you have been honoring it ever since. There is a rule underneath all of this that almost nobody says out loud, and once you have heard it, you will not be able to stop seeing it. People do not read your speed as competence. They read it as need. A man who answers instantly has told the room that the thing mattered enough to skip the pause, and every time you do it, you are broadcasting the size of the wound rather than the quality of the reply. There is a man at every company like this, and you already know exactly who he is. He is faster than everyone. He never leaves a message hanging, because leaving one hanging feels like failing. And somewhere early on, he learned that being reliable was how a man gets chosen. And year after year, he watches slower, less capable men get handed the things he wanted, and he tells himself it is politics or luck. It is neither. He taught an entire building through 10,000 fast replies that his time has no owner. And an organization does not promote its fastest resource. It protects it exactly where it is standing, because moving, it would break the thing that is currently working. That is the cruelty of being fast. It does not merely fail to move you forward, it welds you in place. The Romans understood this so completely that they built a ritual out of it. Every morning before dawn, clients would gather at the door of a patron and wait to be received, and the whole structure was designed around access being rationed. The men queuing were not humiliated by the wait. They were in a system where the wait was the proof. A patron who opened his door to anyone at any hour was not generous. He was nobody. And here is the cruelest turn in the whole trap, the part that explains the last decade of your life if you let it. The better you get at being fast, the more permanently fast you are required to be. A man who is occasionally quick is occasionally leaned on. But a man who is reliably, impressively, never drops anything quick becomes the reason other people's plans function. And the moment your speed is holding up somebody else's schedule, slowing down stops being a personal choice and quietly becomes a betrayal. Sit inside that for a second, because it is the whole trap in one line. Your excellence at responding is the exact thing that took away your right to respond slowly. You did not lose the clock in an argument. You handed it over, one helpful reply at a time, and every one of those replies felt like competence in the moment it happened. The 3 moves. Why the order matters. So let me show you how you take it back. There are 3 moves, and they load in sequence like a magazine, and you cannot skip to the end. Move slower, say less, take more. They are in that order for a reason. You cannot say less until you have slowed down, because a fast man always fills silence. And you cannot take more until you have said less, because a man who explains everything has already handed over the map. Each one makes the next one possible, and the first is the hardest, because it is the one that feels most like doing nothing at all. Move 1, move slower, mechanism 1. Your reaction time is a public price tag. The first mechanism is that your reaction time is a public price tag, and it is being read constantly by people who have no idea they are reading it. Every environment you belong to is quietly measuring how long it takes to get a response out of you. Nobody is doing this deliberately. There is no conspiracy in it. It is simply what people do automatically while they work out where everybody sits. And the number gets around without a single conversation ever taking place. There is a man at your work, and let us call him Marcus. Marcus is not smarter than you, and he is not better at the job. But when somebody pushes on Marcus in a meeting, there is this gap, 3 seconds, maybe 4. He looks at them. He does not look away, and he does not look annoyed. Then he says something short, and the thing moves on. And you have noticed, without ever putting words to it, that people are careful around Marcus in a way they are simply not careful around you. That is not personality, and it is not charisma. It is a measured response time, repeated in public over a couple of years, until it hardened into a fact about him. You have one too. Yours is just shorter. And here is the part that should bother you. You never chose it. Nobody sat you down at 25 and asked how fast you wanted to answer for the rest of your working life. You answered quickly a few times because you were new or eager, or because somebody senior was watching, and then it set, like concrete nobody meant to pour. One word before we keep going. Is there a Marcus at your work? Yes or no? That is the entire comment. I want the ratio. Because I think almost every man watching has one, and almost none of them have ever named what actually makes him different. Mechanism 2. Speed creates tempo debt, which brings us to the second mechanism, and this one compounds. Speed creates a debt. and you pay it in every conversation you have afterwards. I call it tempo debt. Here is how it works. The first time you answer a challenge in 3 seconds, it is only a moment, but it establishes a baseline. And now every time you take longer than 3 seconds, that is information too. Your silence has been given a meaning. A pause from you now reads as a stumble, because you trained everybody around you to expect immediate. And against that expectation, quiet looks like a man who got hit and is still finding his feet. Marcus can sit in silence for 6 seconds, and the room reads it as wait. You sit in silence for 6 seconds, and the room reads it as damage. Same silence, completely different price. And the difference is a habit you built without ever deciding to build it. And it compounds in a direction most men never trace. Because you answer fast, people start bringing you things late, since they know you will turn them around tonight. Which means you are permanently on the back foot, and being behind makes you answer faster still, because now you are apologizing for a delay before there even is one. Give that 6 months, and you are no longer a fast responder. You are the man things get dumped on, and you built every inch of it yourself, and each individual brick felt like being good at your job. That is the debt. You never took out a loan. You simply paid interest until the interest became the work. There is a scene I want you to sit inside for a moment, because I am fairly sure it is yours. It is 11:47 at night. You are in bed, your phone is on your chest, and there is a thread from work you should have closed hours ago. One message in it has been sitting there since 4 in the afternoon, and you have now read it 9 times, and every one of those 9 times you drafted a reply and then deleted it. Here is the thing nobody tells you. Those 9 drafts were not the problem. They were the only healthy part of the entire night. The problem is that you are still in the fight at 11:47 because you never actually decided when you were going to answer. You just kept feeling like you were late, and you were not late. You never set a time, so every passing second registered as overdue. So here is the move, and it is small enough that you can do it tomorrow. Before you answer anything that carries a charge, you decide the delay first. Not the wording, the delay. This gets an answer at 9 in the morning, or after I walk, or in 1 hour. Then you put the phone face down and leave it there. The words will come out better, and that is a pleasant side effect, but it is not the win. The win is that you stopped letting the other person set the clock, and the moment the clock belongs to you, everything downstream of it belongs to you as well. Do that once this week, with one message. Pick the time before you pick the words, and say this one out loud, right now, wherever you happen to be sitting. I let the silence work, and give me one number before we go on. What time was it? The last time you answered a work message you should have left until morning. Just the time. Nothing else. I want to see how many of you are still in the fight at midnight. Move 2. Say less. Now we go up a level, because slowing down without changing what you say only produces a slower version of the same man. Mechanism 3. Every reason is a handle. The third mechanism is that every reason you give is a handle somebody can hold. You believe you are being clear. You are not being clear. You are being grippable. When you explain yourself in full, you do not simply deliver a conclusion. You deliver the structure, holding it up. You show them which supports it is standing on, and a man who can see your supports can lean on one of them. Watch it happen in real time. You say, I cannot take that on this week because I have the audit and the 2 client reviews, and I promised my kid I would be at the thing on Thursday. You believe you just gave a strong answer. You gave 3 doors, and now they say, well, what if we moved the client reviews? And suddenly, you are not defending your no at all. You are defending a calendar, and you will lose that, because there is always a version of a calendar that works. The man who says, I cannot take that on this week, and then simply stops talking, has given them nothing to push against. There is no door, there is a wall, and the wall is not rude, and the wall does not explain itself. And there is a version of this you do to yourself constantly. You say yes to something on a Friday afternoon, and then you tell them how busy you are, because you want the credit for the sacrifice. So you did the work, and then you paid extra to describe the work. What they took from that was not gratitude. It was information. They learned you say yes under load, and the entire price of a yes from you is 30 seconds of listening. This is where most men get it wrong. So let me say the difficult part, plainly. You do not go quiet in order to seem mysterious. Mystery performed for its own sake is just another performance. People smell it instantly, and it makes you look like a man who is trying. You go quiet because information is the only thing in the room you actually control. Their mood, the decision, the politics, who likes whom, all of that sits outside your hands. What you say sits inside them. That is the whole holding, and you spend it like it is the last of something. Mechanism 4, the urge to be understood, which brings us to the fourth mechanism, and I think it is the most expensive appetite a man can carry. The urge to be understood, I will say this flatly, because it is my actual position, and you are welcome to disagree with me underneath. I think wanting to be understood has cost more capable men more ground than laziness ever has. Laziness costs you opportunities, and a man can recover from a missed opportunity. The need to be understood costs you standing, and standing does not come back on its own. Here is how you will recognize it in yourself. You leave a conversation, and you are fine with the outcome. The decision even went your way. But you are replaying one particular moment in which somebody held a slightly wrong picture of why you did something, and you let it stand, and it itches. That itch is the appetite, and that is exactly what it feels like from the inside. Most men scratch it. They send the follow-up message, "Hey, just to clarify what I meant earlier," and they feel better for about 90 seconds. What they actually did was reopen a closed file and write their own name at the top of it. Ray had been at the same company for 15 years when the reorganization came. In the meeting where it was announced, the new director said something slightly wrong about a project. Ray had led 4 years earlier and credited a piece of it to somebody else. Not maliciously, just wrong. Everybody at that table knew it was wrong, and Ray said nothing. He did not correct it in the meeting. He did not send the note afterwards, and he did not raise it with anyone at lunch. 6 weeks later, he was the only person out of that department who came through the restructure, with more people under him than before. I am not telling you Ray got promoted because he stayed quiet. That is a fairy tale. What actually happened is smaller and more useful. Everybody at that table was watching to see whether Ray would correct it. That was the real event in the room, and when he did not, 3 separate people arrived at the same conclusion independently, which was that Ray does not fight for credit, which meant Ray was safe to put in charge of things. He did not win by being silent. He won because his silence answered a question they were already asking. Now the objection, because I know you are making it. You are thinking that this is all fine for Ray, but if you never correct anything, then people will simply build a false story about you, and you will be the man who let them. That is a real risk, and it is not paranoia, so let me answer it properly. The rule is not never correct. The rule is this: correct the record, never correct the feeling. If something is factually wrong and it will be acted on, you fix it once, flat, with no heat in it. The report says 30. It was 53. Here is the file. But if something is simply how a man perceives you, you leave it entirely alone, because you cannot argue a person into a different feeling about you, and every attempt makes the feeling stronger and more detailed. Facts once, feelings never, and it is the same mechanism as the silence. One clean correction lands enormously hard, precisely because you have spent your whole record not correcting things. The man who corrects everything has no correction left that anybody bothers to hear. Your move this week is the smallest in the video, and it will feel like the largest. The next time you feel that pull to send one more message clarifying what you meant, you notice it, you name it, and you do not send it. Just once, then watch what happens. Nothing happens. That is the entire lesson. Now stop the video for 10 seconds and actually do this, because what comes next does not land unless you do. Think of the last 3 times you explained yourself to somebody who had not asked for an explanation. Count them, 3 specific occasions, who it was and what you were defending. If you got to 3 in under 20 seconds, you do not have a communication problem. You have a tempo problem, and every other thing you dislike about your position is downstream of it. Put the number in the comments, just the number, and I will read the spread. And settle something for me while you are down there, because men split hard on this. Who ends up with more room over a career, the man who is always quick, or the man who is warm but unhurried, whose attention has to be waited for? Look honestly at your own record. The people you have been fastest for, over years, did they come to treasure it, or did they come to expect it and resent the first day you were slow? Fast or slow? Put it below. Now let me take you to Spain because it is time. The general's name was Sertorius. He had been on the losing side of a civil war back in Rome, and he was supposed to die for it. Instead, he went to Spain, built an army out of the local tribes, and held off the entire Roman state with it for roughly 8 years. Rome sent Pompey against him, and Pompey was the finest general they had, and Pompey could not finish it. But Sertorius had one permanent problem, and it was not the Romans. It was his own army. They wanted to fight the way they had always fought. Charge in, big lines, settle the whole thing in a single afternoon. And Sertorius knew, with complete certainty, that if they did that, they would be annihilated, because the other side was larger and better equipped, and would win any straight contest. He could have explained this to them. He almost certainly had, many times, and it had clearly not worked, which is why he was standing in front of the assembly that morning with 2 horses. One of the horses was old and thin and barely upright. The other was enormous and healthy, with a thick, heavy tail. Then he called out 2 men. Beside the weak horse, he put the biggest, strongest man in the ranks. And beside the strong horse, he put a small, unimpressive man that nobody in that army would have picked for anything at all. Then he told each of them to pull the tail off the horse in front of him. The strong man took the tail of that half-dead animal in both hands and hauled on it with everything he had. He braced his feet. He put his back into it, and nothing happened. He pulled until his arms were shaking, and the whole army began laughing at him, and he went purple, and he changed his angle and tried again, and still nothing came away, and eventually he simply stopped, because a man cannot continue past a certain point. And the entire time, the small man had been standing beside the enormous, healthy horse, pulling out the hairs of its tail. One at a time. There was no rush in it and no strain on his face. He took a hair, he pulled it, he dropped it, and then he took another, and the horse barely noticed he was there. And in a short time, that tail was bare. Then Sertorius turned to his army and told them what they had just watched. Persistence does what force cannot. A great many things that will not come apart all at once will come apart a little at a time. That is Plutarch in the life of Sertorius, and you can find it in about a minute, and I would far rather you check me than believe me. I call this the one-hair method, and I want you to hold on to it, because we are going to do something with it at the end of this video that you will not see coming. The men in the pack who understand the horse will understand everything else in this arc. Move 3. take more. So let us finish the magazine, and let me correct something you have probably been thinking for the last 20 minutes. You have been listening to slow down and say less, and somewhere in there you decided, this is a video about restraint. It is not. Restraint on its own is paralysis with good posture. The slowness and the silence are not the destination, they are the setup, and the whole reason you build them is so you can take ground, while every other man in the room is still reacting. Mechanism 5. The room decides in the pause. The fifth mechanism is that the room decides in the pause, and almost nobody is operating inside it. Every meeting, every negotiation, every difficult conversation is full of small gaps. 2 seconds, 4 seconds. Somebody finishes a thought, and there is air before the next thing arrives. For most people, that air is uncomfortable, so they fill it with agreement, or a joke, or a restatement of what was just said. But that air is the only place in the conversation where nobody has committed to anything yet. It is the only genuinely open ground in the room, and it is standing empty because everybody else is too uncomfortable to walk into it. A man who is not in a hurry can go in there and do work. Concretely, when a gap opens, you do not fill it with noise. You fill it with a question that changes what the meeting is about. Somebody proposes the timeline. There is a pause. Everybody is about to nod. And you say, what happens if this slips 2 weeks? That is the whole move. Now the meeting is about risk instead of the timeline. And you are the man who put it there. And you did it with 11 words inside a gap that was going to be wasted anyway. You did not argue, and you did not push. You took the frame, then watch the rest of that hour. Everybody who speaks after you has to speak about the thing you named. Some of them will genuinely forget where it came from. That is fine. That is better than fine, because the man who owns the question does not need to win the argument. The argument is already happening on ground he chose. 2 more will do this for the rest of your career. Who is deciding this? Which half the time nobody actually knows. And the moment it is in the air, the meeting becomes an accountability problem. And the shortest and strongest, what are we actually solving? Which you use once a month at most. Because it is not a question, it is a stop sign. None of the 3 is an opinion. You have taken no position, so there is nothing to attack. You have only changed the subject of the room from inside a gap that cost you nothing. That is the difference between speaking and moving. Mechanism 6. Take one hair, not the tail, which brings us to the 6th and last mechanism, and this is the one that will change your year if you actually do it. You take ground by taking one hair, not by taking the tail. Everything you want out of your position, more say, more room, more respect, less supervision, you have been trying to get all at once. You have been waiting for the conversation, the big one, where you lay the whole thing out, and it gets corrected in a single afternoon. You have rehearsed it in the car, and in the shower, and in bed at 11:47, and it never happens. And when it does, it goes badly, because you are the strong man with both hands on the tail. Here is the alternative, and it is unbelievably boring, which is exactly why it works. This week, in one meeting, you speak second instead of first. That is the whole thing. That is the hair. Next week, you decline one small request without offering a reason, and you deliberately choose one that does not matter, so that the muscle exists before the day you need it. The week after that, you sit through one pause without filling it. And the week after that, you use one of the 3 questions, once. None of these are impressive. Nobody will notice any single one of them. That is not a flaw in the plan. That is the mechanism. The horse barely notices. And here is the arithmetic nobody bothers to do. 1 hair a week is 52 in a year, and you do not need 52. The change tends to arrive somewhere between the 12th and the 20th, which is 4 or 5 months. You have spent 4 months waiting for the big conversation more than once, and at the end of it, you had nothing, because waiting is not accumulation. But 4 months of hairs, and the way people handle you is different, and there is no single moment anybody can point to where it changed. There is no conversation to reopen and no decision to appeal, because there was never one. There were 16 small things, and by now they simply look like who you are. And tell me which hair, one line, the first thing that comes to mind, the smallest change you could make this week that nobody would notice. Speaking second, one unexplained no, one pause you do not fill. Put yours below, because the spread of what men pick first tells me more than the rest of this put together. Take one hair. Before the last part, I owe you the trap version, because men fall into it constantly. The trap is using every word of this video to do nothing. You slow down and call it strategy, when really you are avoiding a conversation that frightens you. You say less and call it discipline, when really you have stopped telling anybody what you want. And after 8 months you have taken 8 hairs, and you are exactly where you started, and you feel calm about it, which is the worst part. So test it once a month with one question: what do I have access to now that I did not have 30 days ago? Ground you did not have, room you were not given, a decision that used to happen without you. If the answer is nothing, 3 months running, you are not being patient. You are hiding, and you have found a philosophy that lets you feel good about it. Patience with no accumulation is just fear wearing a nicer coat. Mirror twist, stage 1. You are the strong man, now the turn, and it goes somewhere you are not expecting. You have been sitting here for half an hour, thinking about the strong man and the small man, and the entire time you have been placing yourself in one of those 2 roles and placing the people at your work in the other one. That is wrong. That is not who you are in this story. You are the strong man, and the tail you have been trying to rip out all at once, with both hands, until your arms are shaking and the room is laughing at you, is yourself. Think about it, honestly. How many times have you decided to become a different man? Not gradually. Completely, starting Monday, new routine, new discipline, new way of handling people. The entire thing at once. How many Mondays? Most men reach 5 and stop counting, and they stop for a reason. Each Monday was a whole plan, and each plan had a name inside your head. The reset, the rebuild, the version of you that finally handles things properly. Every one of those names is still sitting there, and everyone is a memory of pulling with both hands and getting nothing. That is the real cost of the big attempt, not the wasted week. It is that you now hold 5 pieces of evidence that you cannot change, and everyone was gathered using the wrong method. You are not weak. You have been applying force to a thing that does not answer to force. The man in this story who wins is not strong. He is not impressive. Nobody in that assembly would have picked him for anything. And that is stated plainly in the source, and it is the part everybody reads straight past. He wins because he understood what the thing in front of him actually was. And what you are is not a problem to be solved in an afternoon. You are a habit stack assembled 1 hair at a time, by accident, over roughly 20 years. Every fast reply, every unnecessary explanation, every gap you filled because the quiet felt bad. Nobody built that in a day, and you are not taking it apart in one either. Mirror twist, stage 2, the complicity turn. But there is a second half to this turn, and it is harder to hear than the first. Some part of you has enjoyed being fast, because fast feels like competence, the instant reply, the same day turnaround, the message answered before anybody else had even opened it. All of that feels like being good at your job. It feels like evidence. It is the one thing you have always been able to point at on the days when nothing else was going well. And giving it up means giving up that evidence and sitting for a while in a colder and quieter truth. You were not the most capable man in the room. You were the most available one. Those are not the same thing, and only one of them is a skill. That is the real reason most men never take the clock back. Not because slowing down is difficult. Because the fast version of them feels important, and the slow version, at first, feels like a man nobody needs. Sit in that anyway. On the far side of it is the first weight you have ever been given, in a room that was actually real. So take one hair, not the routine, not the transformation, one hair, tomorrow, one message where you pick the time before you pick the words. That is the entire assignment. And here is what happens. The first one is hard, and it feels like nothing. The fourth one is easy, and it still feels like nothing. And somewhere around the 20th, you will be in a room, somebody will push on you, and you will notice a gap open where the panic used to be. You will not have decided to be calm. There will simply be room in there where there did not used to be room. That is not discipline. That is a bare tale. So there it is, the first law of the quiet version. Move slower, because your reaction time is a price tag, and you have been quoting far too low. Say less, because every reason is a handle, and take more, because restraint that accumulates nothing is only fear with better manners. And the question from the middle, fast or slow? Here is my answer, and it is not the comfortable one. Speed does not build trust. It builds expectation, and expectation curdles into resentment the first day you are slow. The man who is warm but unhurried builds something the fast man never does. He builds a presence that people are careful with, and being handled carefully is worth more than all the gratitude in the world, because gratitude fades and care protects you. Most men are going to close this video and go straight back to answering everything in 4 seconds. Not because they disagreed with any of it, because they preferred the idea of being this man to spending 4 months becoming him. You already know which one you are. You have known since the meeting I described at the top. And honestly, you knew before you clicked. 6 lines, they are yours now. I own my clock. I let the silence work. Facts once, feelings never. Take one hair. I do not pay tempo debt. I take ground, not credit. One of those hit harder than the other 5. Put that one in the comments. Just that one. And the spread tells me what to write next. Subscribe if you want the rest of this, and not because it is polite. There are 4 more of these, and they are built in order, and you are one of the pack now, whether you signed up for it or not. Next Thursday, everything in this video assumed that you can feel it coming. Most of you cannot. Your body starts leaking the reaction roughly 4 seconds before your mind knows it is happening. And the people who read you well are watching for those 4 seconds, not for the outburst. 6 signals you send before you know you are sending them. That is episode 2 of the quiet version. Say it one more time, and mean it this time. I own my clock, the strong man is still pulling.